please be advised there are spoilers ahead related to the property being watched and or discussed. Hello! Welcome! This is Asha Media TV. My name is Asha. This is where I like to watch, react, and share my 2 cents about a couple of properties related to sci-fi and fantasy, respectively. So in today's video, I am going to share with you my ranking of all 23 episodes from the beloved 7th season of Supernatural. And I obviously mean that sarcastically, but then again, I know there are some of you that do actually like this season. So in a nutshell, before I share with you my presentation, I just want to give you an idea as to what to expect, especially if you're new here and it's your first time watching one of my ranking videos. Essentially, I'm going to do just that. I'm going to rank them from, number 23 down to my number 1 favorite episode from this season. And this time around, I've decided to condense things a lot more because there's only so much I can say about this season overall in a general sense. However, if you do really enjoy this format as opposed to my previous ranking videos, please be vocal about that in the description box below, and I'll continue with this style regardless with future upcoming seasons. But if I don't get the feedback, I won't know what you don't like or what you do like. So either way, this ranking video is not meant to be taken personally, especially you Castiel fans. You are indeed quite passionate about your love for Castiel. I know it. Nevertheless, my intent with this video is to simply give you somewhat of an updated perspective about some of the episodes, not all of them, after reviewing it a few more times. And of course, I like making ranking videos for Supernatural specifically. I mean, it's a guilty pleasure. I know it's not loved by many. I can tell by the view count, but that's okay. That's cool. So if you're interested in finding out what my final thoughts are about this particular season, let's start with my pick at number 23. Episode 13, The Slice Girls. I initially gave this episode a rating of 1 ash emoji, which remains the same mainly because I didn't like the intro of Emma as Dean's daughter, followed by her senseless death by the hands of her Uncle Sam. It seems it was all for the sake of shock value. I mean, come on, seriously? In my opinion, The Slice Girls is a huge waste of potential and insulting to the overall Winchester story arc depicted masterfully in seasons 1 through 5. At number 22, Episode 11, Adventures in Babysitting. I initially gave this episode a rating of 2 ash emojis, which I've reduced to 1 because I just hate the fact this is a filler episode right after killing off Bobby in episode 10. It was such a missed opportunity to properly show an on-screen funeral for Bobby, one of the staple characters of this show, alongside Sam and Dean's grief for their loss. At number 21, Episode 14, Plucky Pennywhistle's Magical Menagerie. I initially gave this episode a rating of 2 ash emojis, which remains as is because it's just complete filler with obnoxious clowns. But Sam and Dean were a lot of fun to watch, hence why I did not give it a lower rating. At number 20, Episode 4, Defending Your Life. I initially gave this episode a rating of 3 ash emojis, which is now reduced to 2. Because the pace is slow and the story is quite boring to attempt watching it for a second time. At number 19, Episode 7, The Mentalists. I initially gave this episode a rating of 2 ash emojis, which stays the same since aside from that funny spoon-bending moment, everything else is generally a snooze fest. At number 18, Episode 15, Repo Man. I initially gave this episode a rating of 2 ash emojis, which is being kept as is because although there were some effed up moments, I think the general premise of the story is interesting, but not gripping enough for me to care to see it again. At number 17, Episode 16, Out with the Old. I initially gave this episode a rating of 2 ash emojis, which stays the same because aside from that epic ballerina opening sequence, the rest of the episode isn't all that engaging to merit additional rewatches. At number 16, Episode 3, The Girl Next Door. I initially gave this episode 3 ash emojis, which will stay at that rating because the flashbacks of young Sam were so cool to see, and Dean's kill of the kitsune monster Amy was indeed a very shocking moment. At number 15, Episode 8, Season 7, Time for a Wedding. I initially gave this episode a rating of 1 ash emoji, which I've now bumped up to 3, because regardless of the terrible depiction of Becky as a character, admittedly, I enjoyed my second watch of this episode thanks to the fun performances from DJ Squalls as Garth, Leslie Odom Jr. as Guy the Crossroads Demon, and of course Mark Sheppard as my beloved Crowley. At number 14, Episode 23, Survival of the Fittest. I initially gave this episode a rating of 2 ash emojis, and after 1 rewatch, I bumped it up to 3. Despite the fact I still don't like how the conclusion of Bobby's character arc was executed on screen, I now think the ending with Dean and Castiel isn't as bad as I had first perceived. In fact, after receiving extra info from my viewers, I agree that ending off the season with Sam being all alone is a parallel complement to the ending of episode 22 from the 5th season of Supernatural. At number 13, Episode 2, Hello, Cruel World. I initially gave this episode a rating of 3 ash emojis, which I believe still applies because although there are some good moments, the story isn't compelling enough to watch Hello, Cruel World more than twice. At number 12, Episode 19, Of Grave Importance. I initially gave this episode a rating of 4 ash emojis, which I've downgraded to 3 because when trying to watch it again, I found myself not as engaged with the story as I originally was the first time around. Aside from Bobby finally revealing himself to Sam and Dean, the Monster of the Week story is dull and unnecessarily confusing. At number 11, Episode 12, Time After Time. I initially gave this episode a rating of 4 ash emojis, which remains the same because I love the time travel element, Nicholas Leia as a guest star, Dean's sense of humor, and even the all too brief and disappointingly underdeveloped intro to the god of time, Kronos. At number 10, Episode 17, The Born Again Identity. I initially gave this episode a rating of 3 ash emojis, which I've upgraded to 4. Watching it again from a different perspective, influenced by a couple of my club members, helped me to appreciate a lot more Castiel's return and his conversations with Dean. At number 9, Episode 5, Shut Up, Dr. Phil. I initially gave this episode a rating of 5 ash emojis, which I've pegged down to a 4. I completely understand and agree with the reasons this episode isn't a fan favorite. But to be honest, so far I've rewatched this episode 4 times. Yes, you heard right. 4 times. And although there's no denying I'm starstruck by the guest appearances of James Marsters and Charisma Carpenter, this episode is a world unto itself, completely mismatched with what the Winchesters stand for. But yet, I love the ridiculousness of it all. And that's that. Sorry, but not sorry. At number 8, Episode 21. Reading is Fundamental. I initially gave this episode a rating of 4 ash emojis, which I still think is fitting after looking it over again. The gradual unraveling of what the mystery rock is and the revelation of Kevin Tran as a new prophet are genuinely fascinating. At number 7, Episode 6, /Fiction. I initially gave this episode a rating of 4 ash emojis, which I believe deserves no less and no more. Undoubtedly, watching the Leviathan versions of Sam and Dean is a heck of a good time. And, more importantly, there's a lot more details about the Leviathans revealed through comedy with Bobby and Jody, which I love very much. At number 6, Episode 22, There Will Be Blood. I initially gave this episode a rating of 3 ash emojis, which I've eagerly bumped up to 4. I enjoy the return of the Alpha and his altercation with the Leviathan Edgar, and of course, every single scene with Crowley and Dick. They are just priceless. At number 5, Episode 18, Party On, Garth. I initially gave this episode a rating of 5 ash emojis, which I've moved down to 4 because truthfully, the Shoujo ghost story is kinda boring. Regardless of that though, there's little hesitation on my part to rewatch this episode since Garth as a character is hilarious and a bona fide scene stealer. At number 4, Episode 9, How to Win Friends and Influence Monsters. I initially gave this episode a rating of 3 ash emojis, which I've since catapulted to a 4. There's so much good stuff going on in this one, from Dean getting stoned from a contaminated turducken burger, to the reveal of Leviathan's custom of bibbing. How to Win Friends and Influence Monsters is a funny thriller with the most shocking ending scene of the entire season. At number 3, Episode 1, Meet the New Boss. After my first watch, this episode was given 4 ash emojis, which I've now moved up to 5. Considering how Season 6 ended, this season opener was 10 times better than I expected it to be. It has everything I want in a supernatural episode. A compelling story, well-paced action, great dialogue, cool visual effects, and guest appearances by notable actors. At number 2, Episode 20, The Girl with the Dungeons and Dragons Tattoo. After my first watch, I gave this episode a rating of 4, but after a couple more rewatches and understanding a bit better the whole Bobby becoming a vengeful spirit thing, I've happily changed my grade to 5 ash emojis. The intro of Charlie, her witty banter with Sam and Dean, James Patrick Stewart's excellent performance as Dick Roman, and the Mission Impossible-like visual moments are an absolute treat. We've now reached my number 1 favorite episode from the 7th season of Supernatural, which is Episode 10, Death's Door. So far, even though this is one of the most heartbreaking episodes of the entire series as I've seen it, I think it's also the best executed narratives of the whole season. The story, the dialogue, the performances, the action, the editing, the score, the pacing, and the visual style were all grade A stuff. Death's Door is so well done that it honestly boggles my mind how the SPN team managed to pull it off in the first place. With so many not so good filler episodes overshadowing Season 7, it feels like a miracle that I've been blessed with an outstanding masterpiece involving one of my favorite characters, Bobby Singer. May he rest in peace. And scene. There you have it. That is my ranking of all 23 episodes from the 7th season of Supernatural. Do you agree with some of them, all of them, none of them? Let me know in the comment section below. All I'll say for now, just to kind of finalize my thoughts here with you, my dear viewers, is that this season definitely was a challenge, mainly because of what they've done with the Bobby character. And after reviewing comments from club members and YouTube subscribers, I'm happy to say that some of my perceptions about some of the episodes have changed, especially episode 17, which at this point in time that I'm recording is the most contested video that I've ever experienced in terms of feedback from primarily club members. There are quite a number of you who are just hardcore Castiel fans. You have your defense for every single action he has taken since the first appearance of this character from, season 4, right? Episode 1. And it wasn't a lot of fun getting so much negative feedback at the fact that I just wasn't so thrilled about his return and I wasn't all that into his conversations with Dean. Although I did get some virtual high fives about my love for the Maxdale situation, but overall, I know now what it's like to piss off a very dedicated fan base of Castiel fans that sign up as club members to watch my reactions. In any case, it is what it is for now. It's done. It's over. I am ready now to move on to season 8, and I hope all of you are ready to move on with me. Therefore, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I look forward to reading your comments about my ranking of this season of Supernatural. And just as an FYI, at the time that I've uploaded this video to YouTube, I've already reacted to the first handful of episodes from season 8. So, if you want early access to my full reactions, uncut, unfiltered, details about that is in the description box below, as well as information about supporting this channel if you don't necessarily want to be a club member, but you do want to support me here on YouTube and you want to see me grow with additional reactions to perhaps other properties. So your support on that end is greatly appreciated. In any case, I look forward to sharing my reaction to episode 1 from the 8th season soon enough. Therefore, I'm tuning out, peacing out, goodbye. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe and check out my other videos.